In 3,500 years of recorded history, humanity has lived in complete peace for roughly 268 years. That's about 8% of the time. The remaining 92%, somewhere on this planet, people are shooting each other, dying. And every side calls it righteous. The question that haunts me is why? If war were truly only about borders and resources, why does it never stop, even after the borders have been redrawn and the resources divided? The answer isn't found in maps or treaties. It's found in the place we least want to look. All right, let's start at the surface, because even the surface is strange enough. Every war in history has had an official pretext, a declared reason, a story told to the public so they'd nod along and say, yeah, sounds about right. These pretexts usually sound noble, about honor, protection, justice, freedom. And the interesting thing is, they're not entirely wrong. They're just not the whole story. In 149 BC, Rome declared war on Carthage because Carthage had violated a treaty by daring to defend itself. Sounds reasonable. But in reality, Rome had already decided to wipe Carthage off the map long before that. The pretext was simply the final step, a way to legitimize a decision that had already been made behind closed doors. Then came 2003, when the United States declared that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction. It was later confirmed there were none. But at the time, that declaration was enough to mobilize a coalition and launch a war that lasted over 8 years. And then, this is my favorite part. Sometimes the pretext is just ridiculous. In 1969, El Salvador and Honduras actually went to war. Real gunfire. Real deaths. Over 2,000 people killed in 100 hours. 2 national soccer teams played a World Cup qualifier. Fans brawled in the stands, and El Salvador declared war. Soccer was just the last drop. The glass had been full for a very long time. Then there's the War of the Bucket in 1325 in Italy. Thousands dead, which started because a wooden bucket was stolen from a well. That bucket is still on display in a bell tower in Modena as a trophy. And then the War of Jenkins Ear in 1739 between Britain and Spain. 9 years of fighting over an ear. I wish I made that up. I didn't. So if those pretexts were just the surface, what lies beneath? This is where it gets interesting, and a little heartbreaking. Take the story everyone knows, the Trojan War. The official pretext was the abduction of Helen, a love story so beautiful that no one wants to hear the rest. The rest goes like this. Troy controlled the Hellespont, the only strait connecting the Mediterranean to the Black Sea, supplying an entire civilization with grain, timber, and metal. Troy collected tolls from every merchant ship that passed through. Mycenae was in a resource crisis. Controlling Troy wasn't a matter of advantage, it was a matter of survival. Helen may have been real, or added later. Either way, her role was to transform a cold economic war into an epic of honor and love that thousands of soldiers were willing to die for. Naked self-interest needs a costume before it goes to war, and nothing fits better than love and honor. Troy taught us that. Now here's the part I keep thinking about. Who actually benefits?
The Gulf War, 1990. 34 nations, 500,000 troops, 6 months. The pretext? Liberating Kuwait. Not wrong. But the real question is, if Kuwait had no oil, would those 500,000 troops have been there? The most honest answer is probably not. Behind that war was a financial architecture the United States had built since 1974, a secret agreement with Saudi Arabia. Global oil would only be priced in dollars, and in exchange, America would guarantee Saudi security. People call this the petrodollar system. It transformed the dollar from a national currency into the world's reserve currency. Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait wasn't just about debt or an oil dispute. He was reaching for the switch that controlled the entire system. That's not an exaggeration. That was the actual strategic assessment inside the White House at the time. Whoever controls the currency that oil is traded in controls the global economy. That's a stake large enough to mobilize 34 nations. Now let's go deeper, with questions that only seem simple. Control the global economy. For what? To trade freely, to set the rules of the game in your favor, to become wealthy, militarily dominant, to rise to hegemony, to shape the world with no rival left standing. Okay, then what? Scenario 1. America becomes the undisputed global superpower. Resources are freely exploited, no external enemies remain. No one left to compete with, so no more war. Sounds like a happy ending, right? It's not. Because when the external enemy disappears, the enemy within begins to rise. Competing interest groups, rival factions, power players turn on each other. Division, internal conflict, a slow erosion from the inside. And somewhere on the other side of the globe, a new power is quietly growing, waiting for its moment to step onto the stage. A new cycle begins. Scenario 2. No power rises to challenge. The entire world speaks with one voice. Sounds more stable. But populations keep growing, resources keep shrinking, and humanity, never satisfied by nature, starts looking outward, beyond the atmosphere, beyond the solar system, colonizing other planets. And if life exists out there, the story starts all over again, just on a cosmic scale. In every scenario, war follows war. This cycle doesn't end with a victory or a treaty, because once one conflict is resolved, another emerges. That forces us to ask, there must be something deeper beneath all these layers. And that's what comes next, the part I believe is the most important in this entire video. If you want to go all the way to the bottom of this question with me, hit subscribe so you don't miss it. As you've seen, everything we've covered so far is a symptom, not a cause. Why? Because at the deepest level, war isn't about nations, it's about human nature. Inside each of us lives something called greed, this desire for more, always more, never enough. More food, more wealth, more land, more power, more recognition. And wanting more, when it doesn't harm anyone, isn't the problem. The problem is when that wanting becomes ruthless. Ruthless enough to deceive, to steal, to take by force, to encroach, to invade. Whatever it takes to get what you want. War isn't something foreign to us. It's simply greed amplified to the scale of nations, continents, history. When one person acts from greed, conflict erupts. When a nation acts from greed, war erupts. The more brutal the war, the greater the greed behind it. But greed is only the beginning. Greed leads to anger, when things don't go as planned, when someone stands in the way, when we feel threatened or insulted. And anger, if left unresolved, accumulates into hatred, into blind and reckless action. Greed, anger, blindness. These three are not abstract philosophy. They are the engine driving every conflict in human history. And once you see that greed, anger, blindness is the engine of war, suddenly everything becomes much clearer. Not just armed conflicts, cold wars, regional tensions, trade wars, racial discrimination, market competition, siblings fighting over an inheritance. Even within ourselves, the inner battle between what we want and what we know is right. Animals, too, competing for food, territory, mates. No exceptions. Everything traces back to the same root. So the deepest cause of war doesn't lie in borders, not in resources, not in economics or religion. It lies here, inside, in the part that you and I both carry, even if most of us aren't willing to admit it. And if that's true, then war won't end as long as that nature remains unchanged. Not because humans are evil, but because humans haven't truly understood it enough to commit to changing it. Think about this for a moment. Some argue that war persists because it serves a purpose, that it is the engine of human evolution, that it clears away the old to make room for the new. And they're not entirely wrong. The internet you're using to watch this video, it traces back to ARPANET, a US military project from the Cold War era. Modern vaccines, skin grafts, mass-produced antibiotics, all were accelerated by the desperate need to keep soldiers alive on the battlefield. Radar, computers, GPS, microwave technology, the list keeps growing. War has genuinely been part of what built the world we live in. That is true. But the suffering it caused, that is also true. And here is the question few people dare to ask directly. If we keep evolving down this same trajectory and nuclear war arrives, where exactly do we evolve to? Back to the Stone Age? Or somewhere worse? That's not pessimism. That's the simple logic of a trajectory that has never truly changed course. And the reason it hasn't changed course is because we keep confusing the end of war with the presence of peace. Real peace is not the silence of guns. That's only negative peace. Surface level calm, the quiet between two storms. Injustice is still there. Resentment is still there. Fear is still there. And as long as those things remain, the glass keeps filling, slowly, silently, until it overflows. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 ended the First World War, but it planted humiliation so deep in the soul of Germany that 14 years later, Hitler rose to power. That peace wasn't peace, it was a countdown. Some call real peace positive peace, not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice, of cooperation, of genuine understanding and compassion between people. Thucydides, the ancient Greek historian, observed a pattern. When a rising power threatens an established one, war becomes almost inevitable. In 16 historical cases studied, 12 ended in war. This is what scholars call the Thucydides Trap, a trap no one wants to fall into, yet history keeps falling into it. Perhaps because we keep trying to escape from the outside, while the key is on the inside. But understanding all of this isn't cause for despair, it's the opposite. When you understand that every great war outside begins as a small war within, you start seeing things differently. The neighbor disputing the property line, the argument in your family last night, the colleague undermining you at work. None of them think they're the villain. Every one of them believes they're defending something that matters. And perhaps this is the most important thing the history of war has ever taught us. Not about weapons, not about strategy, but about seeing that nature in ourselves before it escalates into something that can't be taken back. Positive peace, real peace, doesn't begin at a summit. It begins the moment someone stops, looks inward, and chooses to empty the glass rather than let it overflow one more time. We've had 8% peace in all of recorded history. So what are you doing to push that 8% higher?